Bandiicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back. Press Start to begin.
And obviously I'm miming because my microphone is not muted. I just decided to move my lips randomly when I was saying nothing about. Hello everybody, my name is Go Senpai, also known as Fan Mamas. As always, it's a pleasure to be part of this amazing Retrothon marathon, 4th year in a row that the event is handled, and I'm amazed and glad that I'm part also of this new edition, in this case with one of my first speed games and also one of my main franchises in speedrunning, which is Crash Bandicoot. In this case I'm gonna be doing Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back, any person no game over abuse. And well, it's like Italian won the poll, so we're gonna be playing this. This is not gonna affect the run, this is mainly for meme purposes, as we're gonna be skipping most of dialogues on the game, so we're just gonna be listening to we're gonna be listening to a couple of voice lines that we cannot skip in Italian, since it was the language that won the poll. So I'm gonna assume that we're ready to start, so let's start with the countdown. So 3, 2, well let's listen how the scratch is named in Italian, and then we're gonna be able to start.
Crash Bandicoot 2, il ritorno di Cortex.
Il ritorno di Cortex. Okay, let's start with the countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. Alright. This game is SDA timed. Do you remember Speed Demos Archive? Well, in this case, I'm gonna be getting once I get the count of Crash, time starts, which is this case. That's the reason why I put some minus time on the timer. And so, what is Crash Bandicoot 2? What is any percent? What the heck is game over abuse? Why it's not allowed on this category? We're gonna be having a good amount of time to talk about that later in the run. For now, I'm just gonna try to remember what is supposed that I was gonna say when I began doing this, because I'm not gonna lie if I say that at 1 a.m. it was like at midnight. I said, oh heck, it's supposed I'm gonna be running this in some hours on Retrothon, and I haven't practiced, so I just was into a hurry because I don't know where did I left my PS3 controller to play this. And nice clip that I got for the run, amazing. Believe me, that's something really common in the fact that if you do what I have done there with my movements, you're just gonna clip out of bounds, and I don't know, that's like a good meme right now, I guess. That's like a good mark lock, and it's not bad anyway. So in this case, what we have seen is called neutral slide spin, which is the main movement technique that we have in the game. Crash, please, thank you. So well, in this case, what does neutral slide spin is, also known as NSS by its abbreviation. This means that once we finish with our sliding, we're gonna release D-pad or analog state wherever you're moving, and you're gonna press the spin button, because with this you can keep the speed of the slide, plus you're able to get some control on Crash movement. So this is gonna be the fastest movement way that we're gonna be having in the game, because comparing this with the Crash Bandicoot, well, the first title, the slide was added to the game. That was not a movement for Crash on the first game. And also you're gonna noticing that I'm gonna, well, in this case I have missed a mask, while I just have a single mask. But anyways, in this case, the reason why I'm gonna be skipping masks is because if you have played Crash Bandicoot games, you know that if you get 3 masks, you get an invincibility pace for a couple of seconds. Well, for some seconds, not a couple. But you get an idea about what I was trying to say, because I'm the kind of person who also forgets his breakfast and forgets how to speak properly in English. So if you get them invisibility paste, you cannot perform the neutral slide spin because its speeds get nerfed. Also, crash speed turns really slow when you are in the pre-mask space, so we're not gonna be using that. There's just a single stage later in the run that I'm gonna be trying to do the invisibility paste because that's the only stage where that is faster. But you will see that once we are on the 4th warp room. The game is divided on 5 warp rooms, comparing this with the first title. Here now, the game is not so linear, meaning that you can go on any order you want. In this case, we have a warp room, we have 5 stages. We can complete all those stages in any order. There are runners that prefer to start with Crash Dash, which is the last stage of this warp room, the stage number 5, but in my situation I prefer to do all the stages in order. So for this category that's not something important. Plus you have noticed that there was a timer at the bottom screen and there was a gem that I decided to skip. So why I decided to skip that, why the timer appeared? Well, there are some stages where you can get some additional gems like in the previous stage, and in that case the IGT timer was a signal that if I finish the stage before timer runs out, I was gonna get the gem, but that's not required for the category. So what suppose that we require in order to beat the game, in order to complete this category? Well, first of all, any percent, the intended any percent rule of the game, which is just get all 25 crystals and defeat Cortex. No game over abuse. There's a explanation. There's a glitch in the game. Well, not a glitch at all. That was mostly a mistake by the developers. Because when you get a game over screen in any other game, it's supposed that all the collectibles you got, you lost them, you haven't completed the stage. So if you get a game over screen on a stage, and the buffer memory for all the collectibles that you got on the stage will be cleared. Well, that's not the case on this game because the developers forgot actually to a line code to clear the buffer. So for example, if I get the crystal on this stage but I get a game over, and instead of this I go to Crash Dash, which is the last stage, and I get the crystal from that stage and I complete the stage, once I get out of the stage, I'm not gonna get just only the crystal from Crash Dash, but also will get the crystal from the pits. So that's basically the game over abuse. There are some stages where the crystal is located in the middle of the stage, or also, well, mostly like at the middle, not so much at the beginning of the stage. So in those cases, you can use the game over abuse to save some seconds. I don't remember exactly the amount of time, but comparing the no game over abuse to game over abuse, there's like between 2 to 3 minutes of difference on the categories. So basically on game over abuse, you need to make that Crash loses all your lives, and on no game over abuse we are not allowed to do that. So if in the worst situation where we get a game over on a stage, for example if I get a game over on this stage but I got the crystal, I need to redo the stage once I continue the game. But in that case the crystal is not gonna get duplicated, so we're gonna be fine. So basically the only difference is that on this category I'm not allowed to abuse from game over. Plus, if I get a game over screen, I need to redo this stage. I need to redo the stage where I died. Just if I got crystal. If I haven't got it, I can do another stage, but honestly that doesn't make so much sense, speedrunning talking. But, well, you get the idea about what I'm trying to say. So, once you get all 5 crystals from a warp room, you are able to go to the boss fight. And once you face the boss, you defeat them, you're gonna be able to move to the next warp room. In this case, we got here Reaper. This boss comes back from the first game. It's a really simple boss. He's gonna put some TNT boxes on the floor or squares. Well, try to get your own concept of what I'm trying to say. I'm not the best person in the world to explain a lot of things. So, as you have seen, he's gonna put first some TNT squares on the floor. Then the TNTs are gonna explode, he's gonna receive damage, he's gonna get more crazier than he is, and after that he's gonna put some nitro squares on the floor. After that he's gonna explode one of the nitros, and that's gonna be a good moment to make a spin in order to make damage to him. I can jump over him, but it's faster to do the spin. Fortunately, the pattern is the same all the time, so that's not like RNG / something based, so or cycle based. So you shouldn't be so worried about that. And once we make it 3 hits, we just beat him, and that's everything. That's the first boss fight. So let's keep explaining more stuff about the game right now. So I have mentioned what those NSS is, but how I can do this properly? Well, let's explain this again. So when you perform a slide, you use the circle button, the R1 button. Most of Crash Runners uses R1, but honestly I prefer to use the circle button. I tried to get used to R1, but I never got used to it. So anyways, you just perform your slide, and then you release the D-pad or analog stick. And before in that case, when you perform the slide, you stop giving Crash instructions about where to move. So when you do that before the slide animation finishes, if you press the square button, Crash is gonna spin, and it's gonna keep the speed of the spin, and that's gonna be the fastest way you're gonna be having to move. You can use whatever you want, the analog or D-pad, but in this case I'm using the D-pad. Analog stick is slower in movement, it's faster to use the D-pad. So imagine to use a D-pad in a 3D game. Well, that's what's something good about the PS1 and Crash. Remember that your only objective in this category is to get all crystals, and that's everything. And again, since masks are not like a big thing on the run, I can make some damage boosting sometimes in order to save a little amount of time. Not entirely something that can help you to save time on the run, but it can be helpful in order to try to fix some of the mistakes you make in the run. And believe me, I'm the kind of person who uses to do a lot of dumb things during runs. That includes, but not exclusively, to do wrong inputs or to say nonsense things during commentary, which sometimes can cause some trouble for me because I'm not explaining exactly what is happening on the run, but at the same time, some people may notice it or some people may not. But I guess that the important thing is just to try to keep some entertainment value for the game. Then I remember that I'm an anti-humor guy, so that makes the situation more complicated. And I get a good cycle when this thing rises outside of the water. So let's save some time. So Air Crash stage number 7 of the game's second stage from this warp room. I was thinking that I ran out of masks, but I still having one. But it's not a problem since I'm not gonna use the mask for the next stage. And if I start the next stage with masks, the game quits me all my masks anyway, so I get that is fine. So next stage is Buried. Third stage of this warp room, and the first one we're gonna be riding this little polar bear polar. And when I run this on my channel, I used to do this. So for anybody who hasn't got that kind of reference, well, that's mostly something Latin American based or, well, Mexican based, because I know that there are some countries in Latin America that run over the same situation, but since I'm from Mexico, I used to take that as a reference, because when you go into the public bus, usually when the bus is gonna stop, there's a person who it's like the cashier, or I don't know how to pronounce that in English, but it's the person where you pay in order to ride the bus. So when they scream "Suben," that's a signal for the bus driver to stop, meaning that somebody is gonna take the bus. So that like "Suben" is more like going up, or somebody's gonna ride, or well, hopefully I explained that in the best way that I was able to. And also on Beard, the only way to do this faster is just to press the circle button in order to make Buddha going slightly fast, plus at the same time I jump in order to keep that speed on the air and saving a little amount of extra time. And now Crash takes number 9, another chasing stage. We're only having a total of 3 in this run, hopefully. But like with the next stage that we're gonna be seeing later, for some reason there's a big hole on the beginning of the stage, just on those 2 stages. And here I don't have nothing else to mention, so I'm just trying to pretend that I'm getting focused while I'll try to see what else I can say. Otherwise, let's just enjoy the amazing soundtrack of the game. Okay, I have something else to say. As you have seen, I have died because I pressed the wrong button. But sometimes the game can be trolled on its own way, because Crash Bandicoot games are really well known because they drop inputs naturally. And I'm playing this on a PSTV using a wireless controller, so we have a good combination for drop inputs. And why do we have a good combination? Well, first of all, the game drops inputs naturally. The second is that I'm using a wireless controller, in this case a PS3 controller. And fun fact, most of emulators/PSTV runners of Crash 2 uses a PlayStation 4 controller, but I prefer to use a PS3 controller. I prefer its D-pad rather than the PS4 controller D-pad for this game, since again you use the D-pad in order to move. So getting back to the combo, the game drops your inputs. I'm using a wireless controller, plus the PSTV is emulating the game, so we know that emulators uses to drop input sometimes. Not just to mention the input delay that this thing has. Some people complain about input delay, but honestly I don't feel it in this game. Plus at the same time, I just got used. There are some games that I'm running both console and emulator at the same time, because sometimes I don't have access to the consoles, and I don't really feel a difference. So I guess that's something good for me, that I get used really quick to input delay and that kind of things, which speedrunning talking is really helpful. I don't know if using an LCD TV to play also retro games and retro consoles can be another factor in order to get used to these things. But well, the ill deal, I really like the soundtrack of this stage. This is my favorite song from all the game for some reason. And also I like how the soundtrack of every stage fits properly on its ambientation. For example, on the Any Person Game Over review, you used to die after you catch that crystal, just to put an example about which spots are good to lose lives for that category. For now, I'm learning 100%, which is the full completion of the game, that I may submit for a future Retrothon, and also I will like to learn game over reviews at some point and also bring it here to you guys, obviously if RGL staff allows me to do that at some point. But another good thing about PSTV is that its loading times, I don't know if I can say exactly that are consistent, but since we're loading a digital game, the loading times are like almost the same all the time. Comparing this with playing the game up to a disc on a PS2, because most of the runners of this game run this game on a PAL PS2. and at the same time, well, almost all PS1 games are run on a PS2 because it has a fastest speed mode that increases the speed of the disc spinning, so it reduces a lot of time on loading times, which is really helpful. There's just a single PS1 game on speedrun.com that doesn't allow fastest speed because based on Mod Worlds, fastest speed was not a thing for the PS1. But I'm not legally allowed to say what do I think about them, but I feel like it's really pointless just to don't allow it. That's the only single game where fastest speed is not allowed, so you're gonna be playing on a console. You need to... Well, if you're playing a PS2, you need to play on the standard disc speed. But my conclusion is that they don't allow the FDS because they're from country where the optimal version of the game is not available, so they need to import games and stuff. Anyways. Yeah, it's game over reviews, the other category. In this case, this is no-go, which is no game over reviews. But getting back into the topic of the game, I have mentioned that most of the runners use a PAL PS2. And even PS2 has a slightly faster loading times. I think that each loading time is like a half of a second faster than a PS2 with fastest speed activated. And for 100% it saves like 30 seconds, which is a good amount of time. But runners prefer to use a PS2 mostly for the dropper input and things and input delay. But in my case, I use a PS2 because it was the cheapest way that I had in order to run this game at a faster speed, at a faster load speed. And that's one of the weird cases of my life where I don't use the masks due to that once. Well, now some damage boosting because it's supposed that I need to kill that piranha plant. Very original enemies, if I need to mention that. And again, hi Jam, goodbye Jam, I don't need you for this category. So, well, PS2 is slightly faster, but you have those problems with the inputs. But if that's not your problem, you can try to get a PS2 and run the game there. Otherwise, importing a PAL PS2 is an option. At some point I will buy a PAL PS2 anyways. But for now, that's not into my possibilities since it's a bit expensive to do that. It's cheaper just to get a PS2 and pay for the game on the PlayStation Network, which is what I've done some years ago when I got the console. I used to run this on a PS3 just because I don't want it to run the game on a PC emulator. And fun fact, PS3 loading times are slower, and I don't know why I have catched the third mask, but now, well, this is a big mistake. Now, as you can see, if I try to do the neutral light spin, it seems it's not gonna work. I forgot but if I'm honest with you, I forgot that I already had 2 masks because I'm not used to come here with 3 masks, so that was like a mistake on my side. But yeah, with that, you have experienced how slow this thing is. You have experienced how slow scratch movement is if you get all 3 masks. But as I've said before, later in the run, we're gonna be seeing that the stage where the masks are really important, just in case that I don't mess up and I can get it. Because the stage that we're gonna be doing that is stage 16. But for that stage, I need to access to it having already 2 masks. So I'm gonna be trying to complete some stages before that. And that's the reason why just the photo warp room is the only one that I complete on the non-specific order, because again, that's not really a requirement. Sweet! mostly because you can complete the stage in any order. But if you really care about completing stages into a specific order, that's the situation for 100%. Because some stages have some secret exits, has some color gems that help you to spawn some gem platforms that take you to different paths on the stages to get something extra like another gem, to get an exit, or also get more boxes to get the box gem of the game. And again, on this polar stage, you just press a single button, polar is gonna run, and then you jump. And I got the drop input, which is really interesting because the game hasn't, or at least I wasn't not on frames where the game drop your inputs. And again, it dropped my input. I guess that I'm gonna be dashing there just to avoid that again. I'm gonna try to put attention and don't do that because I'm aware about how I am, and sometimes I can say that I'm gonna do something and guess what? I ended up doing it. Which is really interesting for me. But you know, when things happen, things happen. My PV is a 50-46, so I consider that on my 56 minutes estimate. Everything's gonna find the output. 56 for my estimate. Yes, I did. Because I stopped running this game like 3 years ago after getting jolted just for not being able to finish decent runs. And I don't know why Crash decided to go to the left. But earlier this year there was a relay called 1545% restricted, which, well, the 1545 is something that it's a relay by teams where it's supposed that we complete the Sparfecta, the Railroad 301, the Super Mario 602. And joining all the percentages of the full completion of those games give you 1545. That's why that's called a 1545. And there wasn't any relay. I submitted Crash 2 and Crash 3. And when I saw that I also got accepted with Crash 2, I was like, oh, okay, let's practice this again. And my PV was a 53 something, and due to that practices I finally was able to get a new and decent PV, which was a 50-46, which I was really glad about that. And now I'm running Crash 2 again. Well, unbearable. Maybe at this point you will notice that that the people who was in charge to name the stages were playing a lot of Scramble. And I got a drop input there, that was really interesting. Yeah, the thing with the drop input is that there are some frames where the game simply is not gonna recognize your inputs. So you need to be really careful with that, and I used to forget all the time how to complete this stage, so if you see that I stop for a bit, it's just because I'm trying to realize what is in front of me, or well, in this case in front of Crash, as I'm not able to watch this. So there was a time where I used to remember this, but for some reason my brain doesn't retain the same information as before, and said, okay, this is not important, so we just can ditch this without problems and ditch this information. And there's an ant on my arm. I'm not on a good situation. Sorry. And also, since this is in Italian, I find curious that the option to get back into the game is called riprendi. So So between some Crash 2 runners, that was like a kind of meme. Instead of saying RIP when a run died, we just said the RIP in the. Ooh, okay, that was closer. Fuck that, I was gonna get slapped into that fence. Fortunately, that was not a thing. But that was not the thing anyways. So it was something really good. Okay, we have completed the last stage from this warp room. Next time to face Tiny Tiger. Well, Komodo Bros on the second warp room. Those were new bosses, and also Tiny Tiger is a new boss in the game. The only boss that comes back from Crash 1 is Reaper. So the way that we're gonna be defeating Tiny is that we may need to make him falling down, as some platforms are gonna be lagging on red, meaning that they're gonna despawn, they're gonna fall down. So we need to make that Tiny all of us and fall into that platforms. I mean, I also run Crash 3 and I run the game on a PS2, meaning that I use a wired controller there. Uh-oh. Okay, it's back. Okay, unfortunately I cannot show you my controller because it looks like I have a... Well, it doesn't look... I really have a big mess up with my cables. And if I move everything again, the signal on my capture card is gonna get lost again, so I'm just gonna wait until I finish the run. But honestly, I don't have a preference between controllers. In this case, to run Crash games, I really prefer to use a controller where the D-pad is good for me. I use a fully digital PS1 controller for Crash 3, and by fully digital I mean the controller without analog sticks. So maybe I will prefer that controller instead of the wireless one, because the wireless one that I'm using has analog sticks because it's a PS3 controller. But it's mostly a personal preference. I like both D-pads without problems. I just don't really like the PS2 D-pad. That's the reason why I haven't been learning Escape, because I need to get a DualShock 1 controller instead of using a DualShock 2. Because I don't like DualShock 2 controller. I prefer to use DS1 instead of DS2. And also I bought Escape some years ago because I supposed that I was gonna begin learning it, but guess what? I haven't begun yet. So in my case, I prefer any controller. Just if I just can play properly and I feel comfortable with it, that's gonna be like good for me. Because also I use that PS1 controller from Pac-Man World, which is gonna be another game where I'm gonna be featured on. I'm gonna be running that on Tuesday, because I have 2 PS1 games on this event. Which also, Pac-Man World has a big sentimental value for me, as with Crash 2, both are my favorite PS1 games. Both were games where I spent a lot of time on my childhood. Plus, with Pac-Man World, it was the first game that I ever streamed on the internet. But we will talk about Pac-Man later in the event. For now, we don't talk about Pac-Man, we just talk about Crash. And yeah, if any controller is good for me, that's fine. Because there are gonna be some people that will have different preferences. For example, on this game, I like to mention, make a special shout out to Wild Paws. He's a Colombian runner from Splash Games. And he's a bit weird because he likes the DualShock 2 controller D-pad. And he uses a DS2 to run Crash games, and I told him that he's really weird. I simply don't know how does he like that D-pad, but he says that DualShock 3 D-pad is not so good. But again, everything ends up into being just preferences. Well, here behaving and digging it. Yeah, I needed to check the name of the stage. Digging it and behaving are the B-base stages. In this case, behaving just has, well, behaving has 5 B's. Digging it just have 1. These are like the complicated stages for me and for most runners, because also these B's are really annoying. Yeah. Well then. Yes, and in order to don't get attacked by the bees, there are some spots where I need to keep, mostly when I am close to those electrical fences, because what is going to happen is that if I, for example, if I keep here, the bee is not gonna spawn, so you just can simply wait. Nope, crash! It's supposed that, well, sometimes also the game can mess up your inputs like that. And since I was close to the next checkpoint, that's why I began losing a good amount of time after dying. And also with the neutral slide spin, you can prevent Crash and going into the floor, because suppose that he goes down there in order to avoid the bees. And also, again, in this case, as I mentioned before, stage 16 is the one where I'm gonna be using invisibility paste. So, considering that I do that as my last stage, my route is 20, 17, 18, 19, and 16. But if I finish any of these stages keeping 2 masks, I'm gonna go directly into stage 16. That's the only thing that I need to do. And there's a small Pac-Man block later on the round, because also there's gonna be Pac-Land. So yes, we're gonna be having Pac-Man later in the marathon, because who doesn't love Pac-Man? And also, this is called Hard Crash, stage 18, third stage from this warp room, and something interesting is going to happen here. Because some stages have something called Dead Route, which is an alternative route where you can get more boxes, or you can get a gem or stuff like that, just to contribute to the full completion of the game. And these dead routes just appear when you don't die on the stage. And this is gonna be the only dead route that I'm gonna be taking, because this is faster. This saves like 1.5 minutes comparing this with the regular route of the game. Plus the regular route is more complicated. It's supposed that the hard part here is just to avoid the nitro boxes, but I just do this slightly safe. And there's also another gem there, but I don't really need it, so I just can skip it. You know, it's time to play kinda safe in order to keep my mask. There we go. Cancel slide on ice? I don't think so. No, you can't. And now that I have 2 masks, I'm gonna go to hanging out, stage 16. And I will try to don't mess up some things here. And no, now that I'm realizing this, you cannot cancel a slide on the ice. And also when you find some ice, it's good to make the slide, as the regular walking will be slow, as Crash will begin trying to skate, and in that way getting the control of Crash is more complicated. So if you perform a slide, you just simply can use the ice on your advantage and move slightly faster. And just pay attention to this section where I am, these reels, because I'm here and comparing this with walking. Also the movement is slow, and since to the position we are, we cannot make the slide spin. That makes the movement again slow, and that's the only mask that the stage has. And when you get the invincibility pace and you go through this section, you can move really faster. So this is the only stage where the invincibility masks matter. And the game decided to drop my inputs there. Interesting. And well, the only stage that I haven't beaten has been Renation, stage 19. Usually, if I'm just lucky, considering how good am I on the game, usually when I complete digging it, I can finish with 2 masks just if I'm lucky, Otherwise, usually Cold Hard Crash is like my backup stage in that case. Well, not my backup, but the main stage where I can complete this without big problems. But from that point, Renation is my backup, because also on this stage you can get up to 3 masks. And again, more drop inputs. I think, now that I'm thinking about this, I think that my actual PvE has been the only PvE run I had where I was able to get the invincibility base. For example, there's an invisible platform there that it's triggered when you get the green gem, but in this case I haven't got it because that's not a requirement for the category. But I hope that on a future Retrothon I can bring 100%, or any other Crash runner can bring out 100%, which is also a pretty interesting category due to all the crazy stuff that is performed there. But if nobody else submitted it, I will work into other categories sooner or later in order to get good and see if I can bring it up to our Retrothon event. Because usually 100% is the most run category. Also, if you go to the game leaderboards, you will see that 100% is like the default category. Not so many people likes to go for the game over and no game over abuse categories. There's not so many crazy stuff to do. Please, let's not make that kind of Crash jokes, because there's a very small chance that the game can crash. For some reason, the game can crash on a PSTV, but it's really rare to happen. It's really weird to happen. Usually that uses to happen on the first warp room, but there are some very few people that have got those crashes on later stages. And I have got that crash like 3 times in all these years I have been running this game. But that has happened more than the first warp room. And well, now, engine. This is the new Cortex Heli on this game. I haven't talked about the plot of the game. I will do that on the next warp room. I like to consider the engine like as the real boss of the game, as it's the most complicated one to beat. And I got the fast patterns, as I was able to break his arms and shoulders really quick. So the way that you defeat this boss is self-explanatory, and also since you guys decided to make me play this on Italian, listen to this.
Il maestro Cortex non sarà lieto della tua esistenza. Preparati a subire la sua coda.
And guess what? That's a gold on my splits. Because it's really weird for me to make that fast kill, so I'm really glad about that. I don't think this is gonna be a PvP pace, honestly. Well, I don't think it's gonna be PvP unless something really amazing happens. But this looks like it's gonna be a decent reset list for my standards, so I guess I take it. And now, Piston is away, first stage from the last warp room. In base of the words of the runner that has a 100% world record, this is where my run turns into a gameplay with a timer. Mostly because I do this really safe. And well, since we are on a marathon, the important thing is mostly to showcase this. And I'm really aware about what can happen on these stages if I try to take a lot of risks. So I'm just gonna take risks when it's really necessary. And honestly, I'm not mad with the comment that was on for my runs. I took that mostly as something funny and a good incentive for me to keep practicing the game. And also, weird hitboxes can attack sometimes. Because I'm pretty sure that I was not on the frame where that enemy can attack me and make me damage. Also, these guys with the shields are real annoying. I need to wait until a moment where they are not pushing their shields, otherwise I'm gonna get pushed back, and that's not gonna be something good, obviously. Now, so I can go around these places as there are no invisible walls, but again, I'm really worried about how I am on these stages and how I can mess up some things really easy. No, this isn't a PS2. But yeah, this is basically a PS1 game, and I'm playing this on a PS2. Also, Rocket, one of the only two stages where we play in a jetpack, and something weird happens here, as we don't see the main cutscene, the main animation where Crash is getting warped into the beginning of the stage. And also, we're gonna be watching a pulse glitch, and I haven't explained also why I'm playing this on the PAL version, because that's the reason why the game's in Italian. So after I explain one of the cool tricks, cool things you can do on the PAL version, I'm gonna be explaining the reason why we play this on PAL. And for example, you cannot do this on the NTSC version. If you do that, you just can skip that enemy, but after a while, when the enemy began its electric attack, even if you're not close to him, it's gonna make you damage. But for some reason on the PAL version, nothing bad happens about that. So why do I use the PAL version? For all people who is really involved into retro gaming scene, will be aware that, well, since I haven't got a checkpoint, I'm gonna lose a good amount of time here, which is something really bad because also the previous stage was a golden split. But again, this is like, I'm seeing this like a 52, which is gonna be really good for me. I mean, if this is a 51 or 52, I'm gonna be glad when I have it, but I'm not looking for a PB or something. I'm just doing this for the love of speedruns. So, getting back to the topic, we're aware that on retro gaming community there were usually two versions of the game, NTSC version and PAL version. This is mostly due to the different and the color TV images rules around the world. So yeah, in Uncharted 4 you can play one of the Crash 1 stages. Well, getting back to the topic, we know that NTSC games runs at 60 Hz while Pulse Stop runs at 50. So, mostly due to laziness, developers rarely optimize the PAL counterpart. So that's why in retro games usually the NTSC versions are run instead of PAL. But with Crash 2, that's not the case. This is a game where you can use the PAL version for all its categories without problems. And why is the reason behind that? Well, first of all, Naughty Dog was aware about the difference between NTSC and PAL, so they try to optimize as much as they can the PAL version. NTSC Crash 2 runs at 30 frames, PAL runs at 25. And after some time you keep watching PAL runs, or if you do PAL runs, you will really start to watch this really fluid, and when you see again the NTSC version, your mind and eyes will go crazy. So, being aware about this difference in frame rate between versions, Naughty Dog decided to increase Crash speed. So Crash moves slightly faster on the PAL version. That's the reason why the PAL version is run. Plus, we got some amazing exclusive glitch like the jetpack stages, which we have seen before. Plus, well, in skill under the speed, you also can go more and more faster. So yeah, if you're from a PAL country, from a PAL region, and you wanna run games on console, but you don't have enough money to import NTSC stuff, you can give it a try to this game, as the PAL version is the optimal for runs. In this case, I'm from an NTSC region, so that means that I need to import a PAL PS2. But since I got no money to do that, it was cheaper for me to get a PS TV and then just get this game from the PlayStation Network. And I don't think that that category for that Crash stage on Uncharted 4 would be a thing, mostly since that stage is mostly an auto scroller, because that's a chasing stage. So chasing stages are in some way some kind of auto scrollers. So it will, at least for me, it will make no sense to make a category of that kind. Or maybe as an IL can be a possibility, but I'm not a runner on Uncharted game, so I don't think that I can say something about it. But that will be mostly a topic to bring to Uncharted 4 runners and community. And that was Pack Attack. Now it's time to enjoy Space Out, the last stage of the game, and after that we're gonna be facing Cortex. Also, don't get fooled about this, because since I'm playing this on a PS TV, everything it's simulated, so, and also the output of the PS TV for PS1 games is okay, it's 720p. But yeah, even for what the PS1 was able to handle, this is really good. Mostly since Naughty Dog used a lot of hardware tricks and hacks in order to take more advantage of the system and be able to do a lot of amazing stuff in the game. There's an interview on YouTube with Andy Gavin, main head behind these games in Naughty Dog, where he talked about Crash 1 development. It's a really interesting video. I definitely will recommend if you want to know how a lot of things were possible to do with the PS1 hardware. And again, I hate those shield enemies. And yes, this looks like a sub 52. I'm gonna be happy if that's the case. And it's a 52 also, I'm gonna be happy, because most of the time I used to get really bad runs, and considering that I haven't practiced these last stages, I'm just gonna be happy about the results. Well, I forget, this is gonna be a 52 definitely. And don't worry, I used to mess up a lot of things here in Space Out more than this. Okay, safe mode activated. Okay, this is gonna be a 53. I also need to be careful with my movements because sometimes I can get clipped into other things that will prevent me from having a good movement. And yes, 53 incoming. It's gonna be fine anyways. 52/53 is like my average time. So now it's time to face Neo Cortex. This is a really easy boss. I need to spin against him 3 times in a row. But I need to be really careful because I can mess up sometimes. A signal in order to be that I can hit him is that the flames on his jetpack can disappear sometimes cannot. Maybe because I'm not so good, I don't know how to define that exactly. And time, I'm really happy that I got this really fast.
Non mi hai ancora battuto, Crash Bandiicoot.
Because again, on this stage, also on this boss fight, sometimes I can mess up a spin and I waste more time trying to hit him 3 times in a row.
E cosa pensi del Cortex Back? Sarà ancora lassù?
And well, the plot of the game is that this starts once you complete Crash 1 after you defeat Cortex. Cortex falls into a mine where he sees a Master Crystal, and after 1 year of research engine, his new ally told him that in order to use the power of the Master Crystal, he needs the other 25 slave crystals. And now that Cortex doesn't have any army left on the earth, he tricked Crash, telling him that the world's in a big problem. He needs to, and well, Cortex is gonna stop that evil force that's not gonna destroy the world, but he needs to collect all the crystals, and that's like the plot. And Engine now turns into a good guy here because when you get a gem, a cutscene gets played where when I forgot the name of this guy, Nitrous Brio, sorry. And Nitrous Brio is an ally here in the game. When you collect a gem, he tells to you that if you're collecting the crystals, you turn directly into his enemy. And he tries to make Crash stop collecting the crystals, and instead of getting all 25 crystals, he needs to get all 42 gems, because with that he's gonna be able to use a laser to destroy the Cortex Vortex, which is the space station we have seen here in the cutscenes that it's not destroyed yet. But you get the 100% ending there, and after that point the third game began. And well, that was everything. Thanks for GG's. I really hope that this Humber run was something enjoyable for everybody in the chat, and also I apologize if some of my nonsense things make you feel uncomfortable, but I have a really big problem that I don't know where to stop talking sometimes. But well, my participation doesn't finish here. I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna check really quick. I'm gonna be back on Tuesday in the morning. Oh god. Okay, I don't like to be waking up early, but I need to do it for the love of retro gaming and speedruns. I'm gonna be running Pac-Man World on an amazing PS1 game. I'm gonna finish run again with some cables. It doesn't matter if I mess up again things. But in case you were wondering, this is my digital PS1 controller that I use for Crash 3, and I will use for Pac-Man World on Tuesday. So since this is the second day of the marathon, we're gonna be having a lot of amazing stuff here to see. So still having a good amount of amazing runs, considering this is the second day of the marathon. So just keep enjoying the run. And well, before I leave, I need to say obrigado pelo comentario en português, Chiteiro. I appreciate it a lot because also this is being received in Portuguese by our friends on Speed Gaming Portuguese, and the Portuguese channel from Speed Gaming Network is really amazing. Really glad. It's really heartwarming to see RGL and Speed Gaming working together in a lot of different events. Oh well. This is my end of my speech, but not for my participation. See you back on Tuesday, and keep enjoying the marathon because we're gonna be watching an amazing Forest Eve race on a bit. So keep tuning and keep enjoying the marathon.